Fantastic. Well, hello, everybody. I'm absolutely thrilled to join you. Uh, my name is Lilah Jones, and I noticed that there was this awesome community of women getting together. And so I was like, I'm going to make space and time to be here. So I think you've probably already been in some sessions and you've been listening to stuff for a little while. So I just want to make sure everyone is alive and well. So put really quickly in the chat if you traveled over the holiday. No, yes. All right. Kate, thank God, no. Rudra, nope. Okay, we've got a lot of no's. Still traveling. Somebody's in Australia, mostly stayed home. Okay. All right. Well, I love that everybody is fresh and ready to go. If you didn't travel, you're probably good to go because today we're going to be talking about travel. But we're not going to be talking about travel like where should you go up next. It's more of a metaphor for how we can launch You Leveled Up. So let's get into the content and have a conversation. So quick thumbs up if you can see my screen. Yes, I hope you can. All right. And let's go. Let's jump in. So I am a huge fan of traveling, which I already probably mentioned when I started off asking you if you traveled. And there's a couple of reasons why. When I'm sure you've noticed when you travel, you get out of what? Your routine. You change things. You have to be flexible. Things may not go as planned. And so because of that, you expand your perspective. It's interesting how when we think of ourselves and the next version of ourselves and the things we want to do, and how sometimes we forget that in order to grow to that capacity, we may have to do things that are outside of our comfort zone. So traveling is something that I really like to talk about because you got to get out of your comfort zone in order to do anything different, typically. So I always talk about courage. It is the theme that I'm known for in many of the circles that I run in. And it's the thing that when I talk to groups of people, sharing a keynote like this. As a matter of fact, the last keynote I did for a SaaS company, afterwards, the CEO came up to me and he said, you know what, Lilah, one of the biggest things we struggle with is that we've got all these tools and all these things we could be doing, but I just need my team to have a little bit more courage to show up and actually leverage them. And so that idea of looking at courage as something that we can build as a muscle, and his ask was, do you know of tools, ideas, things that we can be doing to build this muscle? And so I like to start with what is the definition of courage? Well, oftentimes we see courage as one big thing that we do every once in a while, or one large event, or, oh, if I could just get enough courage to speak up. And I want to challenge you on that and continue or consider thinking of courage in the way that I've defined it here, which is a consistent commitment to consciously choose that which supports the grandest vision of ourselves. I'll say it again. A consistent commitment to consciously choose that which supports the highest vision and most grand vision of ourselves, and that is by moi. And I like that because it does take courage to make that choice. It takes courage to choose to be in this meeting. It takes courage to choose to improve yourselves. It takes courage to do one more job application in an economic time that's not so great. I will pause just for a second and acknowledge that it's been a tough year for tech. Raise your hand if you're with me. How many of us know people who've been laid off, downsized, etc.? It's tough. Yeah, lots of other raised hands. Thank you for that. Charlene, thanks for speaking up on that one. Yeah, it's been a tough tech year. How many people are currently looking for work? Okay, raise of hands. All right, a couple of folks are currently looking, yeah, or know other people who are. It takes courage to show up one more time and pitch yourself one more time. And so I want to really make space for this act of noticing that we're already courageous. We just may not see it, or we may not acknowledge it as much as we could. So let's continue. So who am I? Why am I talking about courage? I already said I'm Lilah Jones, and I'm a keynote speaker, I'm a facilitator, I'm a coach, and I'm also a director with Google. And in my 20 plus years, I know I look young, But in my 20 plus years of working in tech, I've had an opportunity to not only build high performing teams, but also work with, teach, coach ambitious professionals on how to be successful in balancing out their ambition with their ability. And so when I think of the things that I've learned in those experiences, and some of the things I'm going to share with in this presentation today, the idea is the keystone of what I've been able to help people do is simplify things, simplify them in ways they can remember. And so we're going to do that today. So let's get into the idea that I want to share with you. So all-inclusive itineraries. How many of us are familiar with that? Why would we choose an all-inclusive itinerary? Go ahead, pop in the chat. A, if you've ever been on a vacation that was all-inclusive, and B, why you liked it, or why you did that, or what was significant about that. Okay. All right, let's see here. We've got, some planning. Okay, Aisha, you're planning it. Nupur, no planning needed. Yep, easy. Yeah, it's easy. It's turnkey. It's turnkey. I have a family. We actually just went to Punta Cana. We love Club Med because it's easy. There's something for everybody to do. What if courage was easy? What if it was easy? What if it was just something that we did and we didn't even think about it? What if we looked at having courage in everyday situations and building that everyday muscle? How could we show up? How could we serve the communities that we relate to? So I want to talk about courage and where do you want to go? A lot of times when I'm coaching women and we talk about what do you want to do in your career? And they'll have, well, I want to go to this next level. I want to go and do this next thing. But when I ask them, why do you want to go do that? Oftentimes, they're not actually sure. And so this idea of getting really, really focused on what do you want to do, where do you want to go, and why? And then once we've established that, using some of the tips I'm going to share here quickly with you to do that. So if you have ever traveled, you've seen something like this. Who knows what this is? Put it in the chat if you know what this is. Anybody? Right? Hey. Are you guys, are you watching people driving? Are you on TikTok? Get off TikTok. Just kidding. Anyway, yeah, it is what I'm holding here in my hand. Not so much the screen. Anybody know what this is? Yes, a mesh pack travel bag. Angie, thank you. It is a packing cube. It's a packing cube. And so we're going to talk about this trip that we're going on, and we're using a packing cube. I don't know about you. If you're like, I don't really use packing cubes, I do, because I don't check bags, and you can get a whole bunch of stuff in at once. And so we're going to get a whole bunch of stuff into a couple of packing cubes. Our first one is vulnerability. Vulnerability. Now, everybody's heard about that. There's tons of books on it. I'm going to share a quick story about a trip I took to Spain. Yes, whoever said Camino del Ronda, that's right. You can see those white and red stripes there, and it tells you that you're on the right path. If you've never been to Europe or if you've never been to Spain, they have wonderful trails. Don't always have cell phone coverage or mobile coverage, but you have to look at rocks and trees and try to find your way around. It's a lot of fun until you get lost. And so in this case, I got lost. And I couldn't ask anybody. There was nobody around. And I found myself, I hadn't seen one of these red and white things in a while. And so I panicked. And I said, I can either go back, starting to get dark, or I can continue forward and hope I see something. And just around then, I saw another hiker. And it was fantastic. And I was like, oh my goodness, if I'm seeing another hiker, that means that they also are on this path. And he said, hey, don't worry. There's another town right above or right ahead. We'll walk together. It was huge. It was huge. So having the courage to admit that we need help. A lot of times we don't. We don't raise our hand and say, hey, I need help. Or, hey, I need to bring in somebody else to help me with this. Or I need to offload some things on my plate because I'm continuing to put the same thing on my to-do list week after week, month after month. And so that idea of being okay with needing help. Okay with being a little vulnerable. Let's go to the next pack. Oh, commercial break. Dang. If you're enjoying this so far, do me a favor. Go ahead and scan this code. This gives me the feedback that I need to say, hey, is this helpful? Is it not helpful? And so it's super helpful for me if you can do that. While you're doing that, we'll talk about the next story that I want to share with you. And that's when I went to Korea. I was in Korea and I decided that I was going to go and use the subway. Now, I could have had the concierge just call me a cab or use an Uber, But instead of doing that, I'm like, I'll figure it out. Terrible idea. I got down into the subway and I noticed that, guess what? All the signs were in symbols. Of course they were. And of course there was anybody who spoke English. So it was a little, what do you call it? Presumptive of me to think I could figure it out. But I did anyway. And I went on my way, got onto the subway and figured I'd, kind of feel my way through it. Well, guess what? I didn't. And I rode that subway for a long time. And that was also very scary. And it helped me to build something called resilience. Now I'm going to go back to the scan code. If you haven't scanned it already, go ahead and do that or just use the link there. But let's move forward with the slide. And you can see here the train that I talked about. And this is how I was able to tap into my resilience. Like, okay, I don't know the answer. I don't know where I'm going, but I will figure it out. That is an opportunity to build confidence. Think about how many times we avoid things so that we don't have to do that or that we can't work that muscle. Something to think about. While you're thinking about that, let's go to the next cube, and that's confidence. Yes, I did climb Kilimanjaro. And why did I do that? I don't know. I've never been really a big climber. I've never camped outside before. Guess what? I have now. Put in the chat if you've ever, and there's a little dancing there. Put in the chat if you have ever camped before. Yeah? Yeah, all right. Yep, camping is fun. I agree, but I didn't know how to do it. And camping is fun unless you have to carry all the stuff and you're going up in different altitudes. So if you can see, there's all these people who were there helping us, which was wonderful. And so I'll never forget the night before we were supposed to summit. We came out of our tent at about trying to block camping experiences. Glamping is fine too. I found that I like glamping more often too. So it was the night before we were going to summit, and it was dark, and I was scared because they helevaced some folks off. By the way, if you can't make it up Kilimanjaro, there's no cavalry coming. They put you in like a jewel or a shopping cart that's like the length of a body, and they bump you all the way down. It is not something that you want to do. And so I got scared because I was like, what if I don't make it? What if I don't make it? And as soon as I came out of my tent, I looked up at the top and I saw a long line of lights, because everybody has those lights on their hats. And I saw, and people were singing, and I said, if they can do it, I can do it. And I put one foot in front of the other. And guess what? We summited that day. It was phenomenal. At the top, I was like, I think I'll sit down and talk to God, which was not a great idea. But that idea of being able to make it, doing something that I didn't really understand as much, and I trained for it, but I didn't really know, it helps to build confidence. It helps to build confidence. So we talked about vulnerability, resilience, confidence, and let's go to the last one, which is support. So you noticed in that last video that there was all those people who were kind of jumping around and dancing. Well, this is an example also of support. So a couple years ago, I decided, hey, I'm going to become a yoga teacher. I'm going to get my 200 hour. And because of that, I can do anything. Not quite. I went to a conference and they had an acro yoga launching pad. And I was like, I can do this. Let's try. Well, if anybody's done acro yoga, you know that you have to build those pyramids and you have to kind of know what you're doing, which I did not. But that was okay. They're like, we'll show you. So I found myself at the bottom of the pyramid, and I'm holding up all these people who are bigger than me, and my arms are shaking. And I was scared because I was like, man, if I can't hold this, they're all going to fall down on me. And it was wonderful because the person next to me, they said, just use your words. Let them know that you can't hold them, and they'll get off. And so I said, get off! Come now! And everybody kind of toppled off. And I left that launching pad, and I was like, what am I thinking? And just around that time, a lady said, hey, Lilah, let me show you how you can hold any weight. You just have to have the rhythm to do it. You just have to get the stance to do it. And so you can see her here, and she's holding me, and then she taught me how to do the exact opposite. And it was such an amazing experience. So having that support to go after and do things that you may or may not be as familiar with is another key component to being able to, again, launch yourself leveled up and do hard things, build courage, everyday courage, not sometimes courage. And of course, we know it's a journey, right? This is not going to happen overnight. We have to be okay with enjoying the journey of what we're doing versus just the outcomes. So that's something to consider. So let's connect. This is my LinkedIn, also my Instagram. One of you is going to win a free pass to my digital course, which is Women in Leadership. It's a signature course that I created a couple years ago. I've taught more than 3,000 women on this topic. And this is the digital version that if you DM me Courage on Instagram, you will be entered in to win free access to that digital course. And that's got all the tactical things about building your career, finding your voice, using your network, and building resilience and also self-care around and as a part of your ritual. All right. Now, I think we have a few more minutes for questions. If you have questions, I'm going to stop sharing, but I put up a couple here just to kind of get the juices going. So, where can you show more courage in the next week? And which of the 4 packing cubes do you feel most challenged by? I'm going to stop sharing and open up the floor for questions. All right. Let's see. When you're feeling doubts, did you give in at any time? On what, Mary A? Feeling doubts about what? About any of the things that I did? Freaking acro yoga when I was feeling doubts? I kept giving that a try. On the experiences I talked about. So when I was feeling doubts on any of the experience I was talking about, did I give it time? Absolutely. Absolutely. It wasn't like I gave it like 5 or 6 days, because on Kilimanjaro, we had we had to go. It was go time. In acro yoga, it was like go time. But what I had already done before getting into those situations was I was okay with failing. I was absolutely okay with failing. I wasn't attached to the outcome of those experiences. I was attached to simply having the experience. So I highly encourage you to try any one of those things.